You know that feeling? You're putting in the work, reading the books, trying the techniques, maybe practicing something diligently for weeks, months even, but you just feel stuck.
Yeah.
Like you're hitting a wall and the path forward just isn't clear.
It happens all the time.
What if the key isn't just more effort, but finding a completely different angle, one that somehow fits you perfectly?
It's a really common human experience, isn't it? We often assume there's this universal formula for growth or learning, and while we get frustrated when the standard method doesn't unlock our potential.
Exactly. So today we're taking a deep dive into two really fascinating ancient stories that speak volumes about this very challenge.
Right.
These come from commentaries on the Dhammapada, ancient texts that share the context behind verses taught by the Buddha. We've actually got access to the original accounts and their translations.
And our mission in this deep dive, really, is to unpack these narratives. We want to understand why the conventional approaches, even highly respected ones, just didn't work for these individuals, and how a breakthrough only happened through an incredibly personalized understanding of who they were, deep down.
It's about pulling out insights into what personalized learning really means, I guess, and how we might overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles on our own paths.
Let's start with the first story, then. This one involves the elder Sārīputta, who was, renowned as one of the Buddha's foremost disciples, incredibly wise and skilled.
A top teacher.
Absolutely. And one of his young pupils.
Okay, let's dive in. So Sārīputta has this pupil. The sources note he's young, handsome, and this is interesting, comes from a family of goldsmiths.
That last detail might sound trivial, but yeah, it turns out to be surprisingly important later on.
So Sārīputta, seeing the young monk's potential and maybe noticing his youth, his attractiveness, he takes a very standard approach.
Very logical, yeah. He gives the monk a meditation object focused on impurity or repulsiveness, the asubha. It's commonly used to counteract attachment to the physical form, to the body.
It's a classic technique, right? If you struggle with desire or attachment, contemplate the less pleasant aspects, the impermanence and decay. Seems sound.
Totally standard. So the monk takes this teaching and heads out to a quiet place like a forest to practice.
Okay.
And he doesn't just try casually. The sources really emphasize he put in immense effort, vayamanto, gayanto, practicing diligently.
Right.
But for 3 months, despite all that effort, he achieved absolutely nothing. Not even a basic level of focused concentration.
Wow. 3 months of sincere effort with 0 results. That must have been incredibly discouraging.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
He returns to Sārīputta, reports the failure.
And what does Sārīputta do? Does he change tack?
Not yet. Sārīputta, being a wise and patient teacher, encourages him. Tells the monk not to lose hope just because the meditation isn't working in the way he expected.
Okay, keep going.
He patiently explains the same meditation object again, maybe in more detail, giving reasons, analogies.
So, standard teaching, massive effort, no results. Teacher re-explains the same teaching. What happens next? Still nothing.
Pretty much. The monk tries again with renewed effort, but again makes no special progress. Comes back, reports back.
Well.
Sārīputta cries a third time, reinforcing the same teaching, maybe even more thoroughly.
And the monk fails again.
Fails again!
His pattern is key, isn't it? The repetition, the failure, despite the diligence.
Exactly. The sources say after 4 months of this struggle, Kataro Mase Kilamita Bhikkhu Sārīputta finally has this realization. He thinks, okay, this monk is capable, he's diligent, he's practicing exactly as I've taught him. But something's missing.
Right.
It seems I don't truly know his deepest inclination, his ashasaya. Perhaps, he thinks, he is someone who can only be truly guided by the Buddha himself, a Buddha Vinyayo.
That's a remarkable moment of humility from such a great teacher, admitting the limits of his own perception.
It really is. He understands that a deeper level of insight is needed here.
So he does the right thing. He escalates. He brings the struggling pupil to the ultimate expert.
He takes the monk to the Buddha and explains the entire situation, his pupil, the specific meditation object given, the diligent practice, and the complete lack of results over 4 long months.
Okay, so now it's in the Buddha's hands. What happens?
And this is where the Buddha's unique ability comes in the knowledge of inclinations and underlying tendencies, the asyanusayanya. The Buddha states that this profound understanding belongs only to fully enlightened Buddhas.
Okay.
He then looks into the monk's past lives.
And what does he see? This must be the key.
It is astonishing. The Buddha discovers that this monk had spent 500 consecutive lifetimes in a goldsmith family.
500, wow.
Yeah. For centuries upon centuries, his mind had been focused on working with gold, crafting beautiful ornaments, specifically dwelling on the beauty of things like golden flowers, kanchakura, lotuses, always handling and appreciating red gold.
Ah, okay. So that detail about the Goldsmith family wasn't trivial at all.
Not in the slightest. The diagnosis for why the impurity meditation failed is immediate and crystal clear to the Buddha. That method, while standard, effective for many, was simply not suitable nabatari for this specific individual.
Because his mind was so deeply conditioned.
Exactly. Conditioned over 500 lives to appreciate beauty, agreeable forms manapa, it couldn't connect with an object focused on repulsiveness. For this monk, the Buddha states, a meditation object that is pleasing, agreeable, something beautiful that is the conducive path, sapaya.
Wow. So the standard logical antidote was completely ineffective because it clashed head-on with literally centuries of deep, ingrained mental conditioning towards beauty. That's incredible.
Precisely. The Buddha immediately declares that Sārīputta will witness this monk attaining arahantship, complete liberation, that very evening.
That evening, after 4 months of nothing.
That very evening. He then sends Sārīputta away, ready to work directly with the people.
Okay, so what does the Buddha do differently? This is the crucial part.
What happens next is, well, truly extraordinary. The Buddha uses psychic power ED to create something perfectly aligned with the monk's history. A magnificent golden lotus flower. Suvanapaduma.
Goes a lotus.
Described as being the size of a cartwheel kakamata. And to make it even more vivid, more beautiful, he makes it appear as though water droplets are glistening on its petals and stem.
Amazing. So he meets the monk where he is, with his deep conditioning.
Exactly. He gives this golden lotus to the monk and provides a new, tailored instruction. Place the flower on a sand heap near the monastery, sit cross-legged in front of it,
Sure.
and simply perform preliminary work focusing on the color, repeating, red, red, lohitaka, lohita, referencing that beautiful golden hue.
Such a different instruction. Not impurity, but just red, red, focusing on beauty.
A complete shift. It's concrete, it's beautiful, and it directly connects to his deeply ingrained past, and the effect, it's instant. As the monk takes the lotus from the Buddha's hand, his mind immediately brightens or becomes clear. Sitapasiti.
Just like that. After 4 months of struggle.
Just like that. He follows the instructions. Immediately, the hindrances navarnani that blocked his mind before are suppressed vikambisu.
Wow.
He quickly attains access concentration, upakarashana, then enters the first state of deep meditation, the first jhana, and rapidly masters the meditative states up to the fourth jhana, katuta jhana, easily entering and abiding in them, almost playing katanto in them.
So he goes from zero concentration for months to mastering deep meditative states rapidly, just by focusing on red, and this beautiful golden flower. That's remarkable.
It truly is. But of course, achieving deep concentration is one thing. Liberation requires insight into reality. Jhana isn't the final goal.
Right. So what's the next step?
The Buddha, from his dwelling, knows the monk has attained these deep states. He observes whether the monk can generate the necessary insight on his own and sees he cannot. Not quite yet.
Okay.
So the Buddha uses his power again. He makes the golden lotus wither at the Hahi.
He makes this perfect, beautiful creation decay. Why?
Yes. The sources say it withered as if crushed by hand, turning black. The monk comes out of his meditation, looks at the now withered flower, and contemplates the change.
Ah, I see where this is going.
He has this realization. Why does this lotus decay like this? It's not even something I'm clinging to like my own body. It's an ungrasped thing, anupadanaki. If even ungrasped things decay so drastically, how much more certain is the decay of grasped things upadanaki like my own physical form?
That's the crucial breakthrough, isn't it? Contemplating the decay of this personalized, beautiful object he was just appreciating.
Exactly. Through that, he sees the universal characteristic of impermanence, anikalaka. And seeing impermanence immediately opens his mind to the reality of suffering, dukkha, and the absence of a permanent self, anadukha.
So the beautiful object, tailored to his past, became the very tool for seeing impermanence.
Precisely. His whole perception of conditioned existence, the Tayobhava, the three realms, changes dramatically. It seems to him like it is on fire, adhikaviya, or like carrying a corpse tied around his neck, kantir badhukunapavia, a visceral powerful understanding.
Wow, a complete shift in perspective.
And then the story adds this lovely little detail to reinforce the insight. Nearby, some boys are gathering water lilies from a pond. He sees the fresh, vibrant lilies in the water and compares them to the ones the boys have piled on the shore, already wilting at the tips.
Another visual cue.
Yeah, and it strengthens his realization. If even these beautiful, ungrasped things decay like this, of course grasped things will decay. He saw the impermanent nature of all things even more clearly, Sutura Enika Kadinya Dasa.
Okay, so his mind is calmed now. He's seen impermanence through this very personal lens.
Right. The Buddha knew that the monk's object of meditation, the insight into impermanence and decay, was now fully clear to him. So from his perfumed hut, the Buddha sent out a radiant light that touched the monk's face.
A signal.
The monk looked up, wondering what it was, and saw the Buddha standing right there before him.
And then the final piece. The teaching.
The final, perfect teaching for that exact moment. The monk rose, paid his respects. The Buddha, knowing precisely what was suitable sapaya for the monk's state of mind at that instant, spoke a verse from the Dhammapada. Verse 209.
What does it say?
The verse goes, "Cut off your affection like a water lily in autumn with the hand. Cultivate only the path of peace. Nibbana is taught by the Sugata. Ochinda sinahamatano kumudo saradikavapasina santamagameva bruhai nebaitu sugatina desita."
Cut off affection like snapping a lily stem. Cultivate the path to peace, to nibbana.
Exactly. The commentary explains cut off, Uchina means cut off with the path of arahantship. The water lily in autumn, kumuda saradika, is one easily snapped. The path of peace, santamaga, is the noble path leading to nibbana. And cultivate bruhaya means develop. Since nibbana is taught by the Buddha Sugata, develop its path.
A perfectly timed instruction.
Perfectly timed. And at the end of hearing that verse, delivered right when his mind was ripe with insight, the monk became established in arahantship, arahatpatiyahahi.
Complete liberation.
Yeah.
Achieved not through the initial standard method, but through this incredibly personalized approach that leveraged his unique history.
And led him to universal insights. It's an amazing illustration.
Truly incredible. Okay, let's look at the second story. This involves a different monk.
Yeah.
Right? Also struggling.
Right, a different monk, also at Jetavana, where the Buddha was staying. He actually received a meditation object for attaining arahantship directly from the Buddha himself, but still found himself struggling.
Even with direct instruction from the Buddha. Okay.
Yeah, he went off to the forest, tried diligently, ganto vayamanto, that same effort, but just couldn't attain arahantship, couldn't break through.
So, similar situation, different initial teacher perhaps, but still stuck. What does he do?
After struggling, he decided, okay, I need to go back to the Buddha and ask for a different, maybe more specific viset of a meditation object. Something more tailored, perhaps.
Makes sense. So he starts heading back.
And on his way back, he encountered something dramatic. A massive forest fire, Mahante Davaji, that had sprung up. A huge blaze.
Whoa, okay.
To escape it, he quickly scrambled up onto a bare mountain peak, finding safety there, away from the flames.
Talk about an unexpected detour. And for the safety of that peak, looking down at the forest burning below, he has an insight.
Exactly. He has this profound insight. He spontaneously took the fire itself as his meditation object, Arahatthagati.
The fire. Okay, how?
He contemplated. Just as this fire burns up everything in its path, all the fuel, large and small things that feed it up Adanani, so too should the fire of noble path knowledge burn up the large and small bonds, the fetter sanyajani that tie beings to suffering.
Ah, okay. He saw this powerful natural phenomena, fire-consuming fuel, and immediately made the connection to the internal process.
Yes, the internal process of the mind where the fire of wisdom needs to burn away the fuel of suffering, of attachment, of the fetters.
That's a powerful connection to make, especially spontaneously like that.
It really is. And once again, the Buddha, although physically still in his perfumed hut, knew. He knew the state of the monk's mind, Sittavaranyatva. He knew about this powerful insight the monk was gaining from observing the fire.
So the Buddha connects with him remotely again.
Yes, he validates the insight from afar. The Buddha confirmed to the monk, "Yes, monk, it is just as you see. The small and large fetters that arise within beings are like large and small fuel for a fire. It is right to burn them up with the fire of knowledge so they can never arise again, making them a habupatakani."
Wow, validating that spontaneous insight.
And then he emitted a radiance, appearing before the monk there on the mountain peak, and spoke another verse from the Dhammapada, verse 22 this time.
Okay, what's this verse?
The verse says, "The monk who delights in heedfulness, or who sees danger in heedlessness, goes burning up fetters, large and small, like a fire. Apamadarito bhikkhu pamade bayadasi basanyojana antutulatataha agivagachati."
Burning up fetters like a fire ties right into his insight.
Perfectly. The commentary clarifies that delighting in heedfulness, apamadarito, means spending time wisely, mindfully. Sees danger in heedlessness, pamadebayadasi, means understanding the risks of not being aware, like rebirth and suffering, or just seeing heedlessness itself as the root of danger.
Got it. And the fetters.
The fetters, sanyojana, are the 10 types of bonds or chains that tie beings to the cycle of suffering and existence. Burning up like a fire, agivagachati, means that with the fire of knowledge attained through heedfulness, apamadadigatanyachati, the monk utterly destroys these bonds, making them unable to arise again, and thus progresses.
So it's the fire of mindful knowledge consuming the bonds of suffering. Very clear parallel. And the outcome for this monk.
At the end of hearing that verse, still seated there on the mountain peak, watching the fire perhaps, the monk burned away all his fetters, sabasanyajani chapetva. He attained arahantship.
Fantastic.
And the sources add, he attained it with analytical knowledge, sahapaisamidahu, and even came through the air to pay homage to the Buddha before departing.
Wow. Two absolutely compelling stories. In both cases, you have individuals who received standard high-level teachings, one from a brilliant disciple, one directly from the Buddha, but they struggle. They hit a wall.
Yeah.
And breakthrough only came when the teaching or the insight was somehow tailored to them or arose from the unique interaction with their environment, seen through a new contemplative lens.
What these narratives really powerfully illustrate, I think, is that the journey of deep personal growth or spiritual practice, or even just learning something difficult, it isn't a single linear path for everyone.
Right.
Hitting those frustrating plateaus, feeling stuck, that seems to be part of the process, even with excellent guidance.
And they really underscore the profound importance of finding the right method, maybe the right perspective, the right object of focus that genuinely resonates with your specific mind, your history, your particular way of perceiving the world.
Exactly. And how sometimes even wise standard advice, the stuff that works for most people, might simply not be the key for a particular individual's unique disposition, their acchaya.
It also really highlights the incredible value of a teacher or a guide who possesses that deep intuition, or maybe even a profound ability like the Buddha's Asayana to truly see the individual on a fundamental level.
Absolutely. To see beyond the surface and understand those underlying tendencies.
And it shows that breakthroughs can sometimes happen quite suddenly, unexpectedly even.
Yeah. When the right internal readiness aligns with the right external catalyst, whether it's a teaching perfectly tuned to your past, like the Golden Lotus, or an insight gained from observing something as dramatic as a forest fire, but viewed with a contemplative mind, significant transformation can occur, and sometimes very rapidly.
So how can you, listening to this deep dive, maybe relate these ancient stories to your own life? It's worth thinking about those areas where you might feel stuck despite putting in the effort.
Are you trying to apply a method, follow some advice that for whatever reason just doesn't quite click for you? It feels like you're pushing against something?
Could there be a different approach out there? A way of framing the challenge, or maybe even an insight hidden in plain sight in your everyday environment like that forest fire or the wilting lilies that's better suited to your unique background, your personality, your particular way of seeing things?
Are you maybe overlooking potential lessons because you're not looking with that specific contemplative focus, the kind that connects those external events to your internal realities?
We've seen from these powerful examples that personalized insight, sometimes drawing on deep, maybe even unconscious factors like past conditioning, or simply reacting to present circumstances with fresh awareness, can be the absolute key.
Yeah, the key to unlocking significant progress when those standard methods just seem to fall short.
It truly challenges that idea that there's always one right way for everyone to learn or grow or practice.
It really does. So maybe consider this as you move forward from our discussion today. What if your own personal history, your deepest inclinations, the sum total of your experiences, even the ones you barely remember or don't consciously value, what if that holds the unique key to finding your most effective path forward?
That's a really interesting thought.
What if the obstacle isn't the goal itself or the practice, but finding that particular lens, that specific angle through which you, and maybe only you, can truly see the way forward?